Hey, Pastor Josh here. We're reading Genesis chapter 35, verses 16 through 29. We've come to another sad section in the book of Genesis. We're going to see Rachel pass away in childbirth, horrendous and heartbreaking. And then we're going to see at the end of this section, Esau and Jacob burying their father Isaac, which is it's a very sad thing, of course. But at some level, it's a good thing that Esau and Jacob are reconciled enough to be able to do this together. So, verse 16, then they journeyed from Bethel. Remember, this is the place where Jacob encountered the Lord. He saw angels ascending and descending on a ladder, and now they've come to this place to erect this altar. He's come to fulfill the vow he made to the Lord at the beginning. He's done it. Now he's left that place. Remember, Bethel means house of God. When they were still some distance from Ephrath, Rachel went into labor, and she had hard labor. Now this Ephrath, now remember it's a distance away. We see down here in verse 19 that Ephrath is connected to Bethlehem. The people that lived around Bethlehem and Ephrath were called Ephrathites. And there's some famous people in Scripture that were from Bethlehem and were called Ephrathites. Number one, you have Naomi from the book of Ruth. She was from Bethlehem. We'll just say Bethlehem rather than Ephrath, but they were the names were similar. So you got Naomi from the book of Ruth. You have King David, grew up in Bethlehem. And also remember, this is Judah territory. This is future, the territory of Judah. We could think of it as a state. So the tribe of Judah would have this area in the future. So King David is an Ephrathite and from Bethlehem. Then we have a prophecy in Jeremiah chapter 31 that goes like this. It says, a voice was heard in Ramah, weeping and loud lamentations. Rachel weeping for her children. She refused to be comforted because they are no more. And so this is prophecy in Jeremiah 31 and then picked up by Matthew. If you remember, when Jesus was born, King Herod did not want a new king to be born in Israel. So King Herod had all the children that were 2 years and younger killed. And so Matthew then takes that prophecy in Jeremiah 31 and he quotes it and says, Rachel is weeping for her children. As these guards from King Herod go out and to kill all these young children, of course there was crying and mourning. And the prophecy that Matthew goes back and picks up is from Jeremiah 31 and says, Rachel is weeping for her children. And that whole prophecy, when you come to Christmas time or you're in the book of Matthew in chapter 2, you need to come back to this section of Scripture that we're reading right here. That's a hearkening back to what happened to Rachel when she was in hard labor. So let's continue to read this. They were at a distance from Ephrath. Rachel went into labor, and she had hard labor. It was a difficult labor. And when her labor was at its hardest, the midwife said to her, do not fear, for you have another son. Remember, Rachel wasn't having children. In fact, she only had one other one, Joseph. And if you remember, at one point she told Jacob, she said, give me children or I die. So this was something that she was just lingering onto, holding onto. And the midwife says, don't worry, you actually do have another son, because she knew that she was getting ready to die. And as her soul was departing, for she was dying, she called his name Benoni, but his father called him Benjamin. Benoni means son of my sorrows. Benjamin means son of my right hand. Ben, Hebrew, that's your cue for the word son. Just like Bethel, Bet is going to be house. So you got here, house of God, and you got Bethlehem, house of Lechem is bread. And so you have son, Ben, son of my sorrow, Oni, and Benjamin, son of my right hand. And so obviously that's Rachel was in extreme pain, extreme sorrow, and she called him Benoni. But his father called him Benjamin. Benjamin would be the only child that Jacob would name. And I think it's a good show of, it's a good example for us to follow and a good show of respect to Rachel to change his name from son of my sorrow to son of my right hand. And remember, the right hand is an exalted position, it's an exalted side. So he's saying, no, we're going to take this terrible situation, this grieving, and this deep pain that's in my heart. And I'm going to turn it and say, no, it's not son of my sorrow. It's not his fault. We're not going to blame him for his mother's death. No, it's going to be son of my right hand. And it's almost a token, if you will, a memorial, a respect even shown to Rachel for Benjamin. Benjamin will be the youngest child. Benjamin, later on in the book of Genesis, will be kind of the centerpiece when all of the sons end up going to Egypt and they end up meeting Joseph again. Joseph wants to see Benjamin. And why does he want to see Benjamin? Because Benjamin is his true brother, his only true full brother. The others would be half brothers, but Benjamin would be his only full brother. So, and I think this is a good example for us to follow in the sense of that Jacob is taking a terrible situation and he's trying to give new significance and new meaning to it and trying to understand, looking at a terrible situation through the lens of God's blessing and hoping and praying that God would indeed bring blessing. There's a famous person that came from the tribe of Benjamin that you know very well and wrote a large portion of our New Testament, and that is the Apostle Paul. He came from the tribe of Benjamin, and of course Jesus comes from the tribe of Judah. Verse 19, so Rachel died, and she was buried on the way to Ephrath, that is Bethlehem. And again, that's why Matthew will pick up that prophecy about Rachel mourning for her children when it's discussed that King Herod is sending out all these guards to kill all those children 2 years and younger. And Jacob set up a pillar over her tomb. It is the pillar of Rachel's tomb, which is there to this day. Again, an example for us to follow, memorializing, remembering, even a sense of worship. Those that have passed on, it's a sacred thing. They have passed a doorway that we have not yet gone. They've passed through a door that we will soon follow as well. And it's good for us to remember them. Oh, it is so good for us to honor them. It is so good for us to focus on the good and the legacy that they have left behind. That's what Jacob is doing here. He's setting up a pillar over her tomb so that everybody can remember, so that everybody can memorialize and notice. It is there to this day. Moses wrote this particular letter. Now, I believe that Moses wrote the vast majority, 99.9% of Genesis, and perhaps all of Genesis, but 99.9% of Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. But if you look through, there are some little additions that it seems that somebody has put in here, whether that be Joshua or maybe somebody just a little bit later, bringing some clarification, such as Ephrath bringing a clarification. This is the Bethlehem you know, and then that is there to this day. The question is, what is to this day? It's at least when the Israelites are coming back into the Promised Land, when they have left Egypt and coming in there. Could be that when it says to this day. So guys, be looking at it when we go in there. It's still there. Or perhaps it's a little bit later after the Israelites have been settled into the land. Still, Moses, I believe, wrote 99.9% of Genesis, if not the entire thing. And same thing for the whole first 5 books of the Bible. Verse 21, Israel journeyed on and pitched his tent beyond the tower of Eder. Israel. Jacob's name is now clearly called Israel, and he is journeying on. And we need to keep that in our mind, is that God sees us for who we will be and who he has made us to be, not who we are, because who we are is not always the best. So that is an attitude we need to adopt in our head. While Israel lived in that land, Reuben went and lay with Bilhah, his father's concubine, and Israel heard of it. Sexual sin, no good. Again, plaguing the people of Israel, and now this time it is actually one of the sons of Israel that is doing this sin, Reuben. the oldest of everyone. And this could even be seen as being a play at power, a play at trying to take over perhaps the entire family household. That would be the general practice of the day for men to attempt to take over a household. So whether that's exactly what's going on, not exactly sure, but we know it's absolutely, positively a sin. And Israel heard of it, and again we see a little bit of the passive nature of Jacob. He does not necessarily become morally outraged or even do anything in response. And this is going to turn into a little bit of an issue here in a bit. And Jacob is going to take care of it when he blesses his sons, because he's going to remember this about Reuben. Now, the sons of Jacob were 12. And also, I think we need to be clear, too, this is setting up the disqualification of the three oldest sons. Reuben now is disqualified. Simeon and Levi are disqualified to be the leaders. Simeon and Levi are disqualified because of what they did and how they deceived the city of Shechem, if you remember in that horrendous episode a couple chapters ago. And so now that takes us down to the fourth born child, the fourth oldest, which is Judah. It's Reuben, Simeon, Levi, and then Judah. And so now Judah would not be disqualified, but Judah is going to have his own situation here in a minute. But remember that Jesus, King David, they come from this great tribe of Judah. Now the sons of Jacob were 12. Now we have 12 tribes that will become 12 sons that will become 12 tribes. Sons of Leah, Reuben, Jacob's firstborn, Simeon, Levi, Judah, Issachar, and Zebulun. The sons of Rachel, Joseph, and Benjamin. Notice the order. Even though Benjamin and Joseph are one of the youngest ones, they are still elevated in prominence. The sons of Bilhah, Rachel's servant, Dan and Naphtali, or Naphtali. This is however you want to say it. The sons of Zilpah, Leah's servant, Gad and Asher. These were the sons of Jacob who were born to him in Padan Aram. So can you name the 12 tribes of Israel? Verse 27, and Jacob came to his father Isaac at Mamre, or Kiriath Arba, that is Hebron, where Abraham and Isaac had sojourned. Now the days of Isaac were 180 years. Isaac breathed his last, and he died and was gathered to his people, old and full of days. Don't you love that phrase? Full of days. He lived a old and full life, and his sons Esau and Jacob buried him. And that is a good thing, very sad thing, to be going through this situation. But the fact that Jacob and Esau are able to do it together is a testimony to their reconciliation. I pray that has been a blessing to you all, and I will see you in the next video.